I think that looks pretty good, don't you think? Hey guys and gals, today we're going to be block sanding this custom 1940 Ford Coupe. It just got back in from having high build primer applied to the exterior surfaces, and it's been sitting for a bit, so it's now cured, and now we can go ahead and start blocking this out. We're going to be starting off, oh by the way, I'm Nick from iNVision Prototypes if you're new to our channel. If you've seen our channel before, well, you already knew that. So anyway, today we're going to start off with 2 grits of paper and 3 boards or 3 types of sanding devices that I like to use when blocking out high build primer. First and foremost, get yourself a mask. You don't want to be breathing this stuff. Secondly, I like to load a board with 120 grit sandpaper as well as 180 grit. The 120 gives me the initial cut and basically gives me a set of lines or cut lines that I'm watching for as I'm cutting down with the 180. And then for curves and surfaces where a long board, a flat board doesn't work too well, I like to get a piece of hardwood stick, kind of like a mixing stick. It's just a piece of hardwood that's been cut down on the table saw to a narrow band, so I can just bend it around and flex it around the curvatures of this hood. To try and block it out with a straight board on curved surfaces is really, really tough. It's possible, yes you can do it, but I just find it a little bit easier to load a piece of 180 onto this kind of flexible long stick, just like so. I'll tighten it up in a minute, and I can go ahead and block out the curved surfaces. And as I'm sanding, I like to grab a brush and just brush the cuttings off so I can see what's actually going on. And what I'm watching for is for the dark areas, because once I cut through the initial coat, and I'll show you this in a second, the surface will get a little bit lighter where I sanded, exposing the darker areas below, like the low areas. What you can do is apply a bit of guide coat, spray on some guide coat, or they have a dry stuff you can apply, depends what you have. But what I'll do is just keep it simple today, and we're just going to start blocking this out, looking for low spots, and as we're sanding, eliminating those low spots. We have 2 good coats of high build primer applied to an epoxy primered body. So once I see that 3rd epoxy primer, which is a bit lighter than what you see here, I know I have to stop because I don't want to cut down to bare metal and expose bare metal, which I have to take and reapply the epoxy primer to seal it and then reapply the high build. You know, you don't want to go that far. So once you're down to a point where you don't see any dark areas, you're done. We're going to start with the hood, block this hood out, and move up to the roof. Let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to start here at the front and just kind of work my way back. This is the 120 grit. Just going to go over the surface and start blocking it out. And what you want to do is work in a crisscross pattern. First you cut one way, then you switch directions and you cut almost perpendicular to your first cut. And that's going to show you any low spots like that. There's a little bit of a heavier pass through there with a high build. And you got to eliminate all these little areas. So like I said, I'll start with the 120, kind of expose those, switch over to 180, and cut that smooth. I kind of tap the surface, get rid of any dust that accumulates in the board. You want the sandpaper to do the work, not your arms. You don't want to bear down and then create more cuts that are deeper than you need. You want the sandpaper to cut any highs off, slowly bring the surface downward. You don't want to work one area too much and create a low spot in one area. You want to work over the entire surface, back and forth, until I'm out of breath. Until, I'm not even pressing hard, it's a hot day. Until we get our surface nice and flat. Always keep checking your paper for making sure it's clean. If it starts accumulating crud on there, it's not cutting, and then it's pointless. Not sure if you can see, but we have kind of a dark, kind of speckled, kind of like cellulite look right there. Here it's nice and smooth, nice and consistent color. And now if you're using guide coat, that would show up as black in this area. So we still need to go down a little bit more. But the rest of this is looking really good. We have to come down into here, take care of that, and then work our way all the way around. It can be very therapeutic. You probably see the dust floating around in the air, blocking out the body panel. You know, you just relax, you think about anything except what you're working on, the surface finish. And then after a while, you're gonna look kind of like this. Uh-oh, we're getting a little bit close there with the epoxy. So I think we're gonna stop there. Maybe a little bit more. It's not very far off. Like this is perfect through here. So I'm going to work my way up that way, and hopefully we don't cut through. Okay. That's it, and that feels really, really, really good. Pardon me while I sweat. It's been a warm one, and I kind of want to keep moving ahead with this, so just here by myself today and just blocking away. My luck, that'll probably fall through the paper. This is the stuff they don't show you on TV when they do the car rebuild shows or whatever. All the time that gets put into perfecting the surface finish. Rat rod, easy to do. Actually, not quite. If you try to replicate the patina of rust, really difficult process. Well, you can throw some acid on it, and but if you got a match to an existing rusty finish, pretty difficult. But if you want a nice, perfect surface finish, it takes hours and hours and hours of just this. I mean, keep checking your paper. If it gets dull and stops cutting, you can feel it. You got to change it out because you're not doing anything otherwise. Okay, that's feeling really, really good. I'll bring you guys in. I cut through in one spot here down to bare metal, unfortunately. So we'll have to address that. Well, the other thing I'm going to do is this area here is a little bit low. Most of the spots I'm touching, but right through here, let's bring the camera in. It's a little bit dark through here. So what I'll do is get some high build and just build this area up just a little bit. I'm not talking much. It's so minute, but I want to kind of make sure that the whole thing is even, and that'll take care of it. If we put putty in here, it'll be too much. So one more shot of high build just in this area, smooth it out, and that'll take care of that. Let's go on to the other side. So the biggest thing is to use the surrounding areas that you just sanded as a guide as to where you are, because, well, you don't want to take and sand that area down too low to bring this down. That's done. So I'm not applying very much pressure in that area with my left hand, but I'm applying a little bit more with my right hand. So this is 120, and I can see the 120 scratches versus the 180. So I'll switch over in a second to 180 and take it down the rest of the way. Ooh. Some of you who are watching this might say, Nick, you're doing this all wrong. You're using the wrong technique for whatever. But I'm not saying this is the right way. This is just the way I do it. And it's been working for me since I was knee-high to a grasshopper. If you have a tip for me, let me know. This is a community where we can share techniques and not just get stuck in one groove. We're getting really close right there. Just barely see a little bit of metal there and there. So I'm going to stop. So once I have the whole area cut down to a nice level surface, I'll start at one end, do a crisscross pattern, and work one end down to the other just to even everything out. Just loosen the fingers. You're not gripping the board really hard. It's nice and loose. Now, for most people, we could stop here with this top and call it a day, and that would work out quite well for a beautiful paint job. But we're not looking for beautiful, we're looking for over the top. We don't want any wavers in the reflections, nothing. So I'm gonna go through, add a little bit of high build, block it out one more time. Right now, to get this curvature, I'm gonna turn to this hardwood flexible stick. And you don't have to buy your own, like buy a sanding board or whatever that flexes. You can make a lot of your own tools. And a lot of times you can use a rubber hose that's fairly stiff and get the same thing done for like an area like that. So here I'm gonna go through, sand this side here, and see what shows up. Like in these areas here, you can see a little bit of epoxy just coming through. So you want to stop there. You don't want to cut into that. We'll get into this afterwards. I just want to work on this top radius, working my way down into there. That's it, stop. That there is our guide. That's the epoxy primer we stop there. I don't want to cut through that. And that's actually feeling perfect right there. Your hand will tell you a lot. If you guide your hand over it, you'll feel any little imperfections because everything's nice and slippery, and you'll feel a little area that kind of catches. So here we're done. That's not good. See, on sharp corners, sharp radiuses, or radii, we've had that discussion before, radiuses, you can cut through relatively easily down to bare metal. So we got to be really careful when it comes into that. Like here I'm down to, I can just barely see the metal. That's where I'm stopping, but I've achieved a nice smooth line. Got a nice little radius happening in here, and I can use this stick really easily to work my way, around this area. I can also get a rubber tube or kind of curve the paper around it to fit into there. So I feel a few things, we have to take care of that. You want to create as much surface contact with your block in the area you're working as possible. So that's feeling good. Now I'm blocking back and I'm blocking into the door area because I want the reflections to travel very perfectly from fender to door to quarter panel. I don't want there to be any jogs or wavers. So just keep working back. Then you'll see a little bit of darkness there. So you have to get rid of that. Either you apply more high build or you block this until the transition is seamless. When you sand through the metal, you can see the engine compartment on the inside, you know you've gone too far. I think that's going to be it. We got this side finished, the other side finished, and I am finished because if you're dripping sweat onto the areas you're sanding, that's not a good thing. So we're going to call this an episode. Appreciate you guys watching. Hope this gave you a little bit of insight into how to block high build primer. This is why I really enjoy or really focus on getting the sheet metal as straight as possible, because coming home like this every day or every night or morning, whatever you want to say, it's not pleasant. So you basically have to take a shower before you leave work, which is basically a garden hose outside the back. So anyway, we're going to wrap this up. If you guys enjoyed this episode, hit the like button, and don't forget to subscribe because that's what helps grow our channel. And your comments, like I mentioned earlier, if you have a tip for me, if I'm sanding something the wrong way, throw it down in the comments. So next day, I guess, is going to be the roof. Hopefully it's cooler. And then we might even get this car up a little bit higher. I don't know, because those fenders look a little too low for me to sand. So we'll see. Anyway, take care, guys.